The chamber beneath the earth. In the oppressive gloom of Montreuil Castle, northern France, during the bleak autumn of 1437, a stone chamber lies buried deep beneath the earth. Its gray walls, slick with damp and blackened by centuries of soot, swallow the feeble light of torches flickering in iron sconces. The air is thick, heavy with the stench of mold, dried blood, and a despair so palpable it chokes the lungs. The clank of iron chains, the steady tread of jailers' boots, and the fading screams of the tormented form a chilling symphony that echoes through the stifling darkness. Dozens of women, their gaunt frames draped in tattered gray dresses, are bound to massive wooden wheels laid flat against the cold stone floor. Infamous torture devices known as rota tormentum. Each wheel is a masterpiece of cruelty. A circular frame, 6 feet in diameter, crafted from sturdy oak and reinforced with iron bands. Rough leather straps bind the victim's wrists and ankles to the wheel's edges, while sharp iron spikes along the rim pierce their flesh with every turn. At the center, an iron pivot allows the jailers to rotate the wheel, stretching the body until joints pop from their sockets. Blood pools beneath, mingling with water dripping from the ceiling, forming crimson streaks across the stone. The women's faces mirror both agony and defiance. Jean, barely 20, her pale face contorted in pain, her lips trembling as she stifles cries. Her eyes, red-rimmed and sunken, glisten with unshed tears. Beside her, Margot, a widow with silver-flecked hair, stares at the ceiling, her gaze silent but resolute, defying the cruelty of her captors. Each bears the scars of weeks of torment, bruised limbs, wrists torn by ropes, and burns from red-hot irons pressed against their skin. The torture, bone-cracking, skin-flaying, body-stretching, lasts weeks, not to extract confessions, but to break their will, forcing them to sign parchments condemning themselves as heretics before God and man. After days of relentless interrogation, the chamber falls into an eerie silence. The jailers, clad in coarse wool and leather, exchange triumphant glances, believing their prisoners subdued. Blood-stained parchments, smeared with ink, await coerced signatures. But in that moment of seeming despair, a faint voice rises from the corner. It belongs to Isolde, a woman of about 30, her skeletal frame barely supporting her matted auburn hair, caked with sweat and grime. She sings, her voice trembling yet steadfast, an ancient hymn banned by the church, Lux Aeterna, a call for mercy and resistance against oppressive power. Her fragile melody reaches the others, like a breeze igniting a flame. One by one, the women join her, their voices weaving a delicate but powerful chorus, drowning out the clank of chains and the jailers' shouts. The jailers, rattled, bellow threats and brandish whips, but the song persists, resounding stronger than fear itself, a defiant proclamation. Who are these women? Why do they refuse silence, which might spare their lives? What force, greater than pain or death, unites them in song within this darkness? This is no mere fiction. Scattered historical evidence points to the Montreuil atrocities of 1437, the mass execution of women, as a grim reality. Behind these barbaric punishments lies a horrific secret from the darkest era of French history. Join us as we seek the truth. The captives of Montreuil. The women imprisoned in Montreuil's dungeons are no witches or sorceresses, as their accusers claim. They are ordinary souls, widows like Margot, who lost husbands to the 100 Years' War, former nuns like Isolde, excommunicated for challenging dogma, and peasant girls like Jeanne, whose only crime was speaking of a faith unbound by orthodox scripture. They were seized for resisting the crushing taxes that bled villages dry during wartime, and for spreading ideas of spiritual freedom, ideas deemed dangerous to the church and nobility's rigid order. Their alleged crimes are vague but deadly: unnatural knowledge, consorting with demons, or simply causing unrest. In an era where church and crown intertwine, Acts like refusing taxes or praying without a priest are branded as rebellion. Dragged from their homes under cover of night, they were taken before the horrified eyes of powerless families and cast into lightless cells. Wheels of silence. Montreuil's dungeons are a labyrinth of despair where neither light nor hope penetrates. Carved deep into the bedrock, the cells are windowless, the air cold and damp. Water seeps through cracks, forming puddles that never dry. The prisoners receive no clean water, only scraps of moldy bread, with time marked only by the changing of guards. Here, the torture wheel reigns supreme. Each rotation stretches spines, twists limbs, and forces screams until voices break. Some women lose their voices entirely, yet their eyes burn with unyielding defiance. The jailers, who see their work as divine justice, torment their victims with grim satisfaction. Beyond the wheels, they wield red-hot irons, pincers to crush fingers, and ropes to stretch bodies until shoulders dislocate. The goal is not mere confession, but total submission. A signature on a document admitting to heresy, witchcraft, or treason. A spark in the darkness. Isolde, the excommunicated nun who preached compassion over doctrine, is the first to sing. Lux Aeterna, banned by the Church for its call to mercy and resistance, rises from her cracked lips. Her voice, frail at first, spreads like wildfire through dry grass. The other women join, transforming the dungeon into a sanctuary of defiance. This act is not merely spiritual. It is a declaration of war against an oppressive creed. Stunned, the jailers try to silence them with lashes and threats, but the song persists, an unquenchable flame in the dark. The public execution. Unable to silence them, the authorities decree a public execution to set an example. On a gray morning in 1437, the women are marched to Montreuil's central square, where pyres await. A crowd of fearful villagers and gloating nobles watches as they are bound to stakes. As flames rise, licking their tattered dresses, the women sing Lux Aeterna in unison. Not one begs for mercy. Their voices overpower the crackle of fire and the cathedral's bell, causing some guards to drop their staves and villagers to turn away, unable to bear the sight. Inferno of voices. The execution does not extinguish their legacy. Lux Aeterna, known as the Silent Choir, becomes a legend whispered in taverns and villages across northern France. Women in nearby towns hum the hymn in secret, a symbol of resistance. The movement against taxes and for church reform spreads, especially in the north. The church, desperate to erase the event, burns most records, but handwritten copies of Lux Aeterna survive, hidden in convent walls. By the 17th century, Montreuil's story reemerges in feminist writings, religious reform texts, and art, a beacon of defiance for French women, from dungeon to resistance's light. The turning of silent wheels. Montreuil in 1437, scarred by the Hundred Years' War, is a land of poverty, superstition, and heavy taxes. The church and crown allied target heretics to maintain control, with women as prime scapegoats. Free prayer groups and hymns like Lux Aeterna are deemed seditious. History records the brutality. In Arras, 1459, over 30 women were burned. In Valais, 1428, 1447, over 300 perished. In Trier, 1581, 1593, over 1,000 were executed. The torture wheel, stretching bodies for hours, was a symbol of control. Other tools, iron pincers, stretching racks, boiling water, served the same end, breaking body and spirit to uphold church and crown. From past to present, what would you do if you could alter their fate? The Middle Ages saw cruelties, like the water chair, forcing victims to drink until death, iron racks stretching bodies to extract confessions, and caged burnings in public squares for women accused of consorting with demons. These injustices, rooted in a corrupt alliance of religion and politics, targeted women for literacy, healing skills, or refusing marriage. Montreuil's story challenges us. If the woman on the wheel was your wife or daughter, what would you do? What do you want to explore next? Another crime? A forgotten heroine? Or history's silence? In 1437 France, would you fight or stay silent? Share your thoughts.